Let's see, we got this stuff going on with Pop Smoke, the original video. Let's get into it.
Right, this is breaking
Yeah, they say this is a video like the footage they didn't see of what really happened. So let's see what's going on.
news, and we see this on TMZ. According to TMZ, Pop Smoke was just shot and killed this morning.
5 years have passed, but Pop Smoke's death still hurts, especially to his die-hard fans. But now there's more heartbreak because there's new body cam footage from the tragic night that's going viral on the internet. Turns out that there's some new details that have been hidden from the public for 5 years, and it will shock you. Let me put you
They
on
never
game.
tell the whole
An
story.
old pain gets new life. Yo, so check this. February 2025 had the whole hip-hop community shook when what everybody thought was fresh body cam footage of Pop Smoke's murder started making rounds on the internet. This wasn't just some regular viral moment, nah. This hit different because it brought back all that pain from February 2020 when we lost one of Brooklyn's realest. The buzz started heavy when clips showing paramedics trying to bring Pop back to life began spreading faster than gossip in the projects. Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, everywhere you look. People were sharing what they believed was never before seen body cam footage from the boys in blue who rolled up to that Hollywood Hills spot where our Brooklyn King got taken from us. This wasn't just some regular internet moment. This was the type of viral situation that had the culture in its feelings. Hip-hop blogs picked it up faster than a corner boy grabs a drop 20. Major outlets started digging, and fans found themselves reliving that February nightmare all over again. The emotional weight of seeing what looked like their favorite artist's last moments on earth was crushing souls left and right, leading to mad tears, anger, and confusion flooding every comment section and group chat in the hood. Pop Smoke, born Bashar Baraka Jackson, was a rising rapper from Brooklyn, New York, who tragically passed away on February 19, 2020, during a home invasion in Hollywood Hills, California. His death shocked the drill scene that he was putting on the map, and details about that tragic night continued surfacing over the years, creating the perfect recipe for misinformation and people getting their facts twisted. The young king was on the verge of taking over the whole game with his unique voice and that hard Brooklyn drill sound, catching the attention of major players and heavy hitters like Travis Scott and Nicki Minaj.
He
His
was on the
posthumous
come up,
album
though.
would go on to hit #1 on the
He
Billboard
was on the come
200,
up, I ain't
proving
gonna
his
lie.
legacy as one of the most promising young talents of his generation. The timing of the video
He
hits
was
different
going up.
because February 2025 marked the 5th anniversary of Pop Smoke's death, a milestone that often brings renewed attention to past losses. For fans who had only imagined what those final moments might have looked like, seeing the reality was both compelling and traumatic. The clinical nature of emergency medical response, captured in grainy video quality, stripped away any romanticized notions of how such events unfold and showed the brutal reality of street life consequences. And the news hit even harder when it was officially announced.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. Now, before I positive note, we just heard some disturbing news, right?
Right, this is breaking news, and we see this on TMZ. According to TMZ, Pop Smoke was just shot and killed this morning.
However, perhaps the most controversial and disrespectful chapter in this story came in July 2024, when one of Pop Smoke's killers, known as Blockstar, gave an interview that shocked the hip-hop community and beyond. In a 2024 interview, Blockstar, involved in Pop Smoke's 2020 murder, stated he doesn't regret his actions, sparking controversy. This interview would prove to be one of the most tone-deaf and offensive
That's
pieces
crazy.
of content related to the case, demonstrating a complete lack of remorse that stunned even those familiar with the callousness that street violence can produce. The interview was conducted on the No Jumper podcast with Adam22, a platform known for controversial content and provocative interviews. The decision to give Blockstar a platform was immediately criticized by the culture, with many arguing that it glorified violence and provided attention to someone who had committed one of hip-hop's most senseless murders. The timing of the interview was particularly
that was
galling,
awful.
coming
Never.
just as Blockstar had been released from juvenile detention after serving only 4 years for his role in taking a young king's life.
I'm not sorry about nothing. You know, it should never happen, but I ain't sorry. I mean, if I could go back, I'll go back, but I ain't sorry. Like,
So if you ain't sorry, what would you go
Mhm.
back? What's
Not
gonna be
every
the
day.
difference? What's you gonna change?
just rapping about it, all type of.
The callousness of these words is absolutely wild.
Oh,
Here
yeah,
was
that
someone
nigga
who had
crazy.
participated in ending a young life, speaking with a casual indifference that seemed to treat murder as just another life experience rather than the devastating crime it was. He expressed no remorse, saying people die every day, and sent condolences, wishing the incident never happened. But his lack of genuine remorse was evident in every word he spoke, creating a jarring disconnect between his supposed condolences and his actual attitude toward taking a life. The interview revealed disturbing details about both the crime and Blockstar's mindset. His explanation for his lack of remorse was particularly chilling and showed the toxic street mentality that continues to plague communities.
I don't know,
Yeah,
growing up,
He try to
I
sound
just,
so tough though.
my people, my family told me, "Hey, sorry for whatever you
He
did.
try to act like
did
he
it for a
don't
reason,
care,
and
but he really
stand on
do.
it." So it's like, yeah, I did it.
This response reveals
You
not
know
just
you did
individual callousness, but suggests a broader cultural
You
context
sitting there
in the
saying
streets where
that you
admitting
did it.
remorse is seen as weakness. The idea that someone should
Why
stand
you
on their actions
why
regardless of
you
the harm they cause
didn't do it?
represents a toxic mindset that prioritizes street credibility over genuine accountability and growth. It's particularly troubling coming from someone who was a juvenile at the time of the crime and supposedly had years in detention to reflect on his actions and their consequences. When discussing the actual invasion, Blockstar provided details that were both chilling and revealing about the mentality of those who carried out this senseless act.
So, okay, the night of this situation, there's been a lot of talk about exactly what y'all were up to in that moment, whether it was a robbery or if there was somebody that basically paid y'all to go do something. Would you describe what was going on that night?
His casual way of referring to the murder as this situation demonstrates a level of emotional detachment that's deeply disturbing. The clinical language he uses to describe what was one of the most traumatic nights in recent hip-hop history shows either an inability or unwillingness to grapple with the human cost of his actions and the impact on the culture. Even more troubling were his comments about Pop Smoke himself, revealing the random nature of the violence.
I didn't know him at all. I didn't know of him. I probably seen one picture of him before, and
Nah, you knew of him.
there's a model.
He's a big rapper. You heard his music.
Yeah,
You
my
knew
record
exactly who
His
he
admission
was.
that he didn't even know who Pop Smoke was makes the crime seem even more senseless and devastating.
Yeah, I ain't
to the
even gonna
culture.
believe
This
that
wasn't
one.
a targeted killing based on personal beef
Nah, you
or
probably
even
didn't
criminal
care who
rivalry.
he
It was
was,
a random
but you
act
knew
of
who
violence
he
committed
was.
against someone whose only crime was being successful and sharing that success on social
Yeah,
media.
you
The
care.
fact that
You
Blockstar
just
thought
you
Pop
knew who
Smoke
he
was
was.
a
You just
model
didn't give
rather
a fuck.
than a rapper underscores how arbitrary and preventable this tragedy was. The response to the interview was swift and overwhelmingly negative from the hip-hop community and beyond. Pop Smoke's mother, Audrey Jackson, reacted, saying Blockstar's life is effectively over due to his attitude.
Because the bottom line is your life is over.
Yeah.
His life is finished. He's living. But if that's his approach to what he's done, life is done for him.
Her response demonstrated the grace and wisdom she's shown throughout this ordeal, focusing not on revenge, but on the self-destructive nature of Blockstar's attitude and the consequences it would have for his own future.
Yeah,
The
'cause
case
he act
involved
like
a
that
home
was an
invasion robbery,
accomplishment
with
in
all
life or something.
defendants pleading guilty by 2025, including Blockstar serving 4 years. The relatively light received controversy in the streets and beyond, particularly given his apparent lack of argued.
Yeah, he act like doing that was
Especially
cool
when
though.
that person shows no signs of rehabilitation or growth from their time in the system. The interview faced criticism for giving a platform to someone involved in such a tragedy. Many in the culture questioned the ethics of providing a platform for someone who showed no remorse for taking a young life, arguing that it glorified violence and
Yeah,
disrespected
I don't
Pop
think he
Smoke's
knew that
memory.
was
The
gonna-
criticism
it was gonna be
extended
like that
beyond
on
just the
there.
content of what Blockstar said to the fundamental decision to give him a platform in the first place. Adam 22, the host of No Jumper, defended the interview by calling it an important historical record of a cultural tragedy, arguing that it provided insight into the mindset of those who commit such crimes. However, critics argued that there's a difference between
that was just to
documenting
get some
important
views.
events and providing a platform for someone to essentially brag about their murder while showing no remorse or accountability. But once you know how exactly it went down, you'll also be calling out Adam 22 for giving Blockstar a platform. The final hours. To really understand the weight of what that viral footage represents, we gotta rewind and break down the event that led to that tragic morning in Hollywood Hills. The story of Pop Smoke's final hours reads like a cautionary tale about fame, social media flexing, and the dangerous intersection of success and street life in modern America. It's a story that unfolds with the cold logic of the streets, where each seemingly innocent move contributes to an inevitable and devastating outcome that left the culture mourning one of its brightest stars. Pop Smoke spent February 18, 2020 in Los Angeles, likely at a rented Hollywood Hills house, posting on Instagram and visiting a recording studio. The day started like many others for the 20-year-old rapper, though with the benefit of hindsight, we can see the seeds of tragedy being planted with each social media post and public appearance. On February 18, 2020, Pop Smoke was in Los Angeles, staying at a rented house in Hollywood Hills. He had been in Los Angeles for what was planned as a 4-day trip, staying in this luxurious rental through Airbnb. During the day, Pop Smoke was engaging in what seemed like typical celebrity behavior for the social media age, documenting his lifestyle, sharing his experiences with his massive following, and maintaining the connection with fans that had helped fuel his meteoric rise from the Brooklyn streets to mainstream recognition. He was likely engaging in social media activity, posting on Instagram, including stories that accidentally revealed his address by showing gift bags with the address label visible. This seemingly innocent social media flexing would later prove to have devastating consequences, serving as a stark reminder of how the tools that build celebrity can also endanger it in the most brutal ways. The
Some
specific
niggas
posts
just
that inadvertently
been
revealed
thirsty
his
and
location have been analyzed extensively by both law enforcement and media outlets. The gift bags, likely from high-end retailers and designer stores, contained address labels that were clearly visible in the photos and videos Pop Smoke shared with his followers. He also shared photos with friends, displaying stacks of cash in the driveway, suggesting he was socializing at the house during the day. These images, which seemed to capture the carefree enjoyment of success and the fruits of his hustle, also inadvertently advertised the presence of valuable items at the location. The cash, jewelry, and other luxury items visible in these posts painted a picture of wealth and opportunity that would prove irresistible to those planning the lift. These posts, seen by his 1.1 million followers, may have inadvertently exposed his location, contributing to later events. As evening approached, Pop Smoke's focus shifted to his craft, demonstrating the work ethic and dedication that had driven his rapid rise in the competitive world of hip-hop. In the evening, he visited East West Studios in Hollywood to work on his music, likely for his upcoming album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, which was released posthumously. East West Studios is legendary in the music industry, having hosted recording sessions for everyone from Frank Sinatra to Kanye West. For Pop Smoke to be working there represented not just professional success, but acceptance into the highest echelons of the music industry. This studio session represents the last creative work Pop Smoke would ever do, adding a particularly heavy dimension to his legacy. The tracks he worked on that night would later appear on the posthumous album that would debut at #1 on the Billboard 200, cementing his place in hip-hop history. But in the moment, it was just another evening of artistic creation, another step toward the mainstream success that seemed increasingly within reach for the young king from Canarsie. While Pop Smoke was working in the studio and engaging with his fans online, sinister events were already in motion in the Hollywood Hills. Around 2 a.m. on February 19th, a black BMW was seen circling the house, with a passenger sneaking to the back and returning after a minute, indicating early scouting by potential intruders. The methodical nature of this surveillance indicates that this wasn't some random crime of opportunity, but a calculated operation by street dudes who had done their homework. The perpetrators had identified their target, located his position, and begun reconnaissance hours before the actual invasion. Cell phone records indicate that suspects, including Corey Walker and a 17-year-old, were in the area, with their phones pinging towers in South LA at 1:34 a.m. and Hollywood Hills by 2:04 a.m., suggesting reconnaissance. The digital footprint of the perpetrators would later become crucial evidence in their prosecution, demonstrating how the same technology that made Pop Smoke vulnerable also provided the tools to track down his killers and bring them to justice. Pop Smoke returned to the house around 4 a.m. on February 19th, shortly before the tragic home invasion. The sequence of events that followed has been reconstructed through court testimony, police reports, and witness statements, creating a minute-by-minute account of how quickly a young life can be destroyed by street violence. At 4 a.m., Pop Smoke returned to the house. Simultaneously, an Infiniti sedan with its headlights off arrived, and 4 individuals emerged, slipping into the shadows. The coordination of this timing suggests that the perpetrators had been watching and waiting for the right moment to make their move. Even more chilling is the digital evidence of premeditation that investigators would later uncover. At 4:08 a.m., a Google account search on Zillow for the house address revealed interior photos, indicating further planning by the intruders. This detail shows the calculated nature of what was about to unfold. This wasn't some random crime of opportunity, but a planned invasion with specific targets in mind. The fact that they were looking up interior photos suggests they wanted to understand the layout of the house, possibly to plan escape routes or identify where valuables might be located. The invasion itself was swift and brutal, unfolding with a violence that shattered the peace of the exclusive neighborhood and changed the culture forever. Around 4:30 a.m., 4 or 5 masked intruders, wearing ski masks and gloves and using a police scanner, broke into the house through a second-story balcony. The use of a police scanner indicates a level of sophistication and planning that goes beyond typical robbery attempts, suggesting familiarity with law enforcement procedures and a serious desire to avoid capture. They entered the bedroom, where one pointed a gun at Amelia Rose, a woman present, demanding silence. Others rushed to the bathroom where Pop Smoke was showering, confronting him and demanding his jewelry. A physical altercation ensued as Pop Smoke resisted. During the struggle, he was pistol whipped and shot in the chest. He was then kicked and attempted to flee downstairs, with 2 additional shots fired as he ran. He collapsed at the foot of the staircase, found with multiple gunshot wounds. The autopsy would later reveal the devastating extent of his injuries. 2 gunshot wounds, one perforating the torso, entering from the left lower back and exiting the chest, damaging the kidney, stomach, and heart, and another penetrating the left lower extremity. The immediate response was frantic, as those present desperately tried to save Pop Smoke's life. Amelia Rose screamed for Michael Duradola, another occupant, to call 911. Duradola made the call and began chest compressions on Pop Smoke. This is likely the moment captured in that viral footage that resurfaced in 2025. The desperate attempt to save a young life that was slipping away, performed by people who loved him and refused to give up hope even as the situation became increasingly dire. Police arrived at the scene within 6 minutes, as reported by LAPD Captain Steve Lurie, and found Pop Smoke injured. 6 minutes is actually considered a fast response time for emergency services, but in a situation like this, every second matters. The rapid response of the LAPD and paramedics represents the best of emergency services, but it couldn't undo the damage that had already been done by street violence. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, one of Los Angeles' premier hospitals, where doctors performed a thoracotomy on the left side of his chest in a desperate attempt to save his life. Despite these efforts, and despite having access to some of the best medical care in the world, he was pronounced dead a few hours later. The medical team's efforts represent the tragic reality that some wounds, both physical and spiritual,
Especially for
are
that.
denied. Human healing. The aftermath revealed the petty nature of what had cost a young man his life and robbed the culture of a king. The intruders fled, taking a watch which was later sold for $2,000, as admitted by one of the suspects. A life full of potential, cut short for jewelry worth a fraction of what the young artist would have earned in a single day. The small amount that the stolen watch was sold for, just $2,000, serves as a stark reminder of how little value the perpetrators placed on human life and how their crime was motivated by desperation rather than the kind of wealth they imagined they were targeting. But justice seemed to have been served, and now, through his music, his legacy lives on.
Yeah, took
Justice
a life,
and Pop Smoke's
got
legacy.
life.
The story of Pop Smoke's
$2,000.
murder doesn't end with his tragic death warning in 2020. Nah. In fact, the year
That did all that for
family grief
$2,000.
and the ongoing
makes
continues to
sense.
this day. Perhaps most shocking of all was the 20 that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community and beyond. Perpetrators showing a complete lack of remorse that stunned even hardened observers of street justice. The investigation into Pop Smoke to be a testament to modern police work, combining old-school detective methods with cutting-edge digital forensics to track down the perpetrators who thought they could get away with robbing the culture of one of its brightest stars. 4 individuals were ultimately charged in connection with the murder, 1 adult, Corey Walker, and 3 minors aged 15, 16, and 17 at the time. The mix of adult and juvenile defendants would complicate the legal proceedings, as different court systems handle cases involving minors versus adults, each with their own procedures, protections, and potential outcomes. The investigation that led to their capture was a masterclass in modern police work, demonstrating how digital breadcrumbs can lead investigators to even the most careful street criminals. The suspects were apprehended through a combination of surveillance footage, digital evidence, cell phone tracking, and confessions. Detectives identified vehicles linked to the crime, traced to Walker via DMV records, and found incriminating Google searches on his account. The digital trail that the perpetrators left behind became their downfall. The same technology that had made Pop Smoke vulnerable through his social media posts ultimately helped bring his
the phones.
to Justin Walker's
go
account
hit
were
legs,
particularly damaged,
take
showing
phone
searches
with
for the
your
house address and interior photos just
supposed to leave
hours
the phone
before
at
the
home.
invasion. Cell phone tower pings placed the suspects in the area during the reconnaissance phase, and surveillance footage from various sources helped investigators piece together their movements throughout the night. The modern criminal justice system's ability to track digital footprints proved crucial in building a case that might have been nearly impossible to solve just a decade earlier. The legal proceedings that followed were complex and emotionally charged, involving both adult and juvenile courts, as well as extensive plea negotiations. The complexity was heightened by the fact that some of the perpetrators were minors, which introduced additional legal protections and procedures designed to account for their age and
Still would've
potential
gave
for
him all life.
rehabilitation. Corey Walker was sentenced to 29 years in prison after pleading guilty in February 2025. During his sentencing hearing, Walker made statements that stood in stark contrast to what would later come from one of his co-conspirators. He apologized to Jackson's family, expressing remorse and taking responsibility for his actions. The
Nah,
courtroom
you
was
was
filled
sorry
with
you didn't-
emotion
you
as
never
family
did it.
members, including Pop Smoke's parents, watched the man who had orchestrated their finally
So y'all think about
his
everything.
apology,
out
while
there,
likely
man.
welcomed by some, could never undo the damage he had caused or bring back the young life that was lost to senseless street violence.
Y'all should have thought about it.
Faced
Like,
a
if
different
I
legal
do this,
process
will I get caught and go to
designed to
jail?
balance accountability with the possibility
No, y'all did
the
not
minors,
think like that.
18 and 17 at the time, all pleaded
Y'all just said,
guilty. The
let's do it.
17-year-old was sentenced to April 2023. The
How
15-year-old,
long they
the
got?
shooter, welcomed by some, could never undo the damage he had caused or bring back the young life that was lost to senseless street violence. The juvenile defendants faced a different legal process, with proceedings designed to balance accountability with the possibility of rehabilitation. The minors, aged 15, 16, and 17 at the time, all pleaded guilty through juvenile court. The 17-year-old was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in April 2023. The 15-year-old, the shooter, is to remain in a juvenile facility until age 25, and the 16-year-old's sentence is not publicly detailed. The variation in sentences reflects both the different roles each defendant played in the crime and
But
the
they all
complex
got different
calculations
amount of
that
time.
juvenile justice systems must make when
I
dealing
would've
with
gave
serious
all the
violent
same
crimes
amount of
committed
time.
by young
They
street
all did
youth.
the
For
same
Pop Smoke's
thing.
family, particularly his
No
mother,
matter the
Audrey
age,
Jackson, the
y'all
legal
know.
resolution brought a measure of justice, but little comfort. The pain of losing a child is something that no legal proceeding can truly address, and the Jackson family has had to navigate their grief in the public eye while also working to honor their son's memory and prevent similar tragedies from affecting other families in the hood. Audrey Jackson has actively
I
honored her
would've gave
son
him
Pop
age
Smoke's
15,
legacy
you get
through
15
public
years.
statements and initiatives. Her journey through grief has been both public and deeply personal, as she's worked to transform her pain into purpose through advocacy and community
killed the man
engagement.
for
Rather than
$2,000,
retreating from public life, she has
basically.
chosen to use her platform to address the root causes of violence that claimed her son's life and continue to plague
16,
communities
you would've
across
got
America.
16
She
years.
founded the Shoot for the Stars Foundation to support youth, focusing on education and technology. The foundation's mission
17
extends far
years,
beyond
it would've
simple
been no
charity
games.
work. It represents Audrey's determination to prevent other families from experiencing the pain she's endured and to keep young people from falling into the same traps that led to her son's murder. By focusing on education and technology, the foundation addresses some of the root causes that can lead young people toward violence, providing alternatives and
been cool.
opportunities
Yeah,
that might
y'all
steer
would've
them away from the kind of
been
desperation
30,
that motivated
31,
her son's
32, so y'all
killers.
wasn't
The
straight.
foundation's work includes providing computers and technological resources to schools, creating youth programming, and offering mentorship
30,
opportunities.
32, and
These might
34,
seem
so
like
that
small
would've been cool.
interventions compared to the magnitude of the loss that inspired them, but they represent hope. Hope that other young people might have better options in the paths that led to that tragic February morning in the hills. Throughout all of this, Audrey Jackson has remained a pillar of strength and grace, demonstrating a level of composure that seems almost superhuman given what she's endured. The evidence leans toward her advocating against gun violence and sharing her grief in interviews. Her approach to the situation has been one of measured response rather than vengeful anger, seeking to transform her pain into positive change rather than allowing it to consume her or perpetuate cycles of violence. Pop Smoke's legacy lives on not just in his music, which continues to influence artists and move fans around the world, but in his mother's advocacy work, in the foundation that bears his mission, and in the ongoing conversations about how we can build a society where young people like Bashar Baraka Jackson can pursue their dreams without fear of becoming casualties of street violence. His death was senseless and preventable, but the response to it, from his family, his community, and his fans, demonstrates the power of love to transcend even the most devastating loss. If you enjoyed
Yeah, them niggas are stupid. They basically killed somebody for $2,000. Them niggas are stupid. They got what they deserve. Well, they should have got more time than that, but hey, it is what it is. I would have gave them exactly their age. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.